This is a DJI FPV air unit, and honestly, it changed the game when it came to FPV. And whether you love DJI or hate DJI, it's hard to argue that digital FPV is pretty damn good. And it's also the barometer that everybody uses when they rank another digital system, and there's not many of them. So it makes no surprise that people are freaking out that DJI said that they're discontinuing development for these. We're going to talk about that today and why you really shouldn't worry. Let's get started. All right, what's good, everybody? Today I want to talk about the discontinuation of the DJI FPV system. I feel like DJI didn't really do a good enough job of explaining this, and it left a lot of consumers really up in arms. There's a lot of people that had hopes to buy the FPV drone and graduate over to the DJI FPV system when they finally got a chance to build the drone. And then there's a lot of people that have invested in the digital system after ditching analog and are really upset because what does it mean that you're not going to develop these anymore? Does this mean we're not going to see future updates? Does this mean that you're no longer going to be able to activate replacement air units? Or would that also mean that you're not going to be able to warranty these out? And well, it doesn't really mean any of those things. So as of right now, there is a chip shortage that is happening. Manufacturers are struggling to make certain electronics. And this happens to be one of those that falls in that category where DJI has played cat and mouse with suppliers over the past year to get parts needed to keep these in stock and keep these in production. I don't think it's really one of those things that DJI wants to stop developing. I think it's just one of those things where resources are becoming more expensive than it actually deems profitable for them. With the introduction of the FPV drone, we saw OcuSync 3.0, and OcuSync 3.0 flies and has a lower latency and just absolutely crushes this air unit as far as overall clarity goes. And I think that what we're going to end up seeing is DJI is going to produce a V2. Will it be called the air unit? Probably not. DJI has a habit of basically closing out products and then rebranding them, rebadging them as something else, and then people are going to buy it because it's something new that DJI is producing. It's very clear that DJI is in the FPV game. With the introduction of the FPV drone, they have sort of a renowned presence here that I don't think is going to go away. But with that said, yeah, you're not going to be able to buy these. And quite frankly, I stopped buying these a long ago. Before DJI even said that they weren't going to make these any further, I stopped buying air units. Matter of fact, here is 4 air units, and there's probably nothing wrong with these air units. And I'm honestly considering just giving these away because they're sitting right now. I don't use air units. I use the Caddx Vista. The Caddx Vista is the smaller of the two. It's like the air unit light is what they're calling it. So every single build that I do, I put a Caddx Vista in here. And the Vista's performance compared to the air unit is honestly, to the naked eye, you're gonna have a really hard time not telling or being able to tell the difference, I guess. You're just not gonna be able to tell the difference. They're both equally as good. There are some drawbacks with the Caddx Vista versus the air unit, which I'll talk about here in a moment. But Caddx has come out and said that they're still going to produce the Vistas, the air unit light. They're still going to be making these. So there's nothing to really worry about. If you remember, DJI licensed the software and hardware rights to Caddx about 1.5 years, almost 2 years ago. So Caddx has been developing these for a while. So the legacy of digital is going to live on through the Caddx brand name. And that's honestly not a bad thing that Caddx is taking over for the air unit production, simply because Caddx understands what an FPV drone needs as far as weight goes, what we need as far as camera goes, and they're going to give us a lot more options than these can possibly ever give us. Unfortunately, these are big, these are heavy, they're clunky. The only real benefit of this versus the Vista is the fact that you do get SD card support to record internally into the air unit if you don't want to put a GoPro on your rig, which was nice, but there is no stabilization on that, so you'd have to look at options like gyro stabilization or something after the fact, and the camera wasn't all that amazing. So to be able to now build a sub 250 gram digital drone with just this and forego a action camera is going to be a little bit harder, but I still think that the Vista units are a lot better as far as what you can do with them. You don't have to worry about buying a specific frame designed for FPV digital. You can buy a Vista plop it in there and you're good to go. And it works, like I said, just the same. So if you're freaking out, you're reading these groups thinking that DJI is abandoning the FPV lineup, they're not. They're just going in an entirely different direction, and that direction is honestly not a bad one. I'm okay with them not developing it because they honestly don't have the better interest of people who fly FPV at heart. They produced a FPV drone that is clearly for a beginner and also not very durable, so I don't even think they had any business other than developing the technology that it takes to do transmission signals to make hardware for quads that we are building ourselves. The other thing to keep in mind that none of these are 6S capable, which required an auxiliary form of voltage control, which can often lead to problems, and that's the primary reason why I stopped using these. Anytime I would get a voltage spike, these would black out and leave me with a broken GoPro, a broken quad. It was frustrating. These are rated up to 6S, which means I don't need a BEC. I don't have to worry about noise being introduced into the build. They just work, and it doesn't require anything additional for it to happen. So you're gonna have to choose your poison. I know a lot of you probably got your FPV goggles and you were excited about this, but just know that this dying is not a big thing, and it's actually the start to something even better, because if DJI licenses this to further brands outside of Caddx, we're gonna have many more options than just the two that we have here today currently. So there you go. The future's looking pretty bright still for digital. And I would honestly snag some Vistas. And if anybody needs an air unit, go ahead and drop a comment down below. I have no idea if these are fully functional. You do need the doors and you do need a camera, but I will be gladly happy to ship this out to somebody who's needing it. If you're in Discord, message me in Discord and I will ship one of these out. I've got 4 to give away. All right, stay original.